bankruptcy because they incurred huge losses because of trading in forex derivatives. M.R. Venkatesh took active interest in this particular issue and found out that banks, including leading multinational banks, had been mis-selling this exotic product to various unsuspecting MSMEs and even large enterprises and made tons of money at the cost and expense of these MSMEs. He was instrumental in gathering a set of brilliant lawyers to launch cases against the multinational banks as well as the local banks. And he's been fairly successful, so much so that even the Reserve Bank of India took cognizance of this particular issue and slapped heavy penalties on various banks for mis-selling. So, ladies and gentlemen, even during his CA days as a practicing chartered accountant, he was more or less doing the job of a lawyer. And therefore, it comes to me as no surprise that in 2018 he decided once and for all to don the hat of a full-time lawyer. And what an excellent track record he has already established as a leading lawyer in India. On the present book, talking about the present book, it is worth noting that he has already completed 4 to 5 books, even when he was a chartered accountant. And most of these books were on economics, on international trade, foreign exchange, and all that stuff. And let me also hasten to add that one of his first ever book on anti-dumping was released by no less than the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister of India, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And it took, I know for a fact that it took him less than 96 hours to put this book together and present it before the Prime Minister of India. That has been his track record in terms of writing books. But then, now that he has become a lawyer from a chartered accountant, I think it is a case of natural progression that he has progressed from writing about economics, finance and foreign exchange and international trade to something that is more legal in nature. And today we have M.R. Venkatesh writing a book on no less than the basic law of the country, the Constitution of India. Although, as I said, I have not read the book, but given my understanding of the author, and also the title which he has given to the book, it seems to me that it will be an excellent companion for anybody who is interested in understanding the Constitution from an entirely different perspective, not from the perspective of law, but perhaps from the perspective of whether the Constitution reflects the civilizational ethos of this country. I have not read the book, but this is my guess, and I am generally correct when I make a guess about what Venkatesh does. And as far as the amount of work that has gone into it, if the fact that he has borrowed nearly 37 books from my library to do a research on this particular book is any indication, it is a remarkable effort, labor involving labor, passion and research that has gone into this book. I am sure that each one of you, after reading the book, will find it worth your while. In conclusion, let me say, the Constitution may be a sacred document, but it's not a sacred scripture that cannot be amended, that cannot be corrected. In fact, critiquing the Constitution is an essential part of constitutionalism itself. And we need books such as this to enable us to think, to question and to debate about the existing Constitution, whether the Constitution meets the current requirements or not. And to that extent, I think all of us should warmly welcome the book authored by M.R. Venkatesh. However, I would also be mindful of the fact that any mistake in the Constitution should not be laid at the doorstep of the Constitution itself, because much depends on who is operating the Constitution, how the Constitution is operated. Bhimrao Ambedkar famously said, and I quote, that however good a Constitution may be, if the people who operate the Constitution are bad, the Constitution will also become bad. Similarly, however bad a Constitution may be, if the people who operate the Constitution are good, the Constitution will eventually be found to be good. I hope the author has taken note of this important proposition in writing this book. I once again extend a very warm welcome to all of you. I request Shri P.S. Prabhakar, Chartered Accountant, to introduce the book and break the suspense surrounding the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was an effective welcome address. We understand you have not read the book, but we also understand you have read the author thoroughly. Born advocate, turned advocate now, and thank you so much for the beautiful and insightful introduction about our energetic author, the hero of today. And Shri P.S. Prabhakar sir, formerly known as PSP sir, is known as Sashi Tharoor in our CA community for his eloquency and is a super critic of the content. So let's expect a sensational trailer of this book.
Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Revered Swamiji, Justice Prakash, Shri Anand Raja sir, and the ever ebullient MRV, and my good friend Shrikant. Dignitaries of the stage. Good evening to everyone present here. Shrikant was mentioning about breaking the suspense. I don't think that there's a very great suspense over this book. The topic gives away, the title gives away what exactly is the book. Christian Constitution in a Hindu regime. Mr. Keshav, who is here, has brilliantly portrayed this as the parliament inside the constitution inside the book, which clearly means right from the day when it has been a square peg in a round hole. That this does not fit our country. This is the fundamental premise on which the MRV has, written this book. I have been very fortunate to read this book as it was being written, chapter by chapter. And I am sure that MRV can give a run to ChatGPT in terms of speed. He writes so much that I was not able to read in a similar speed. Anyway, I will now go to the formal introduction of this book. It's actually both a privilege and a pleasure to introduce this thought-provoking book, Discovery of Bharat, Christian Constitution in a Hindu Nation. This is not a routine book, and it certainly does not ask routine questions. It invites us to pause and reflect on some of the deepest issues concerning India's identity, civilization, constitutional structure, and national future. At its heart, the work asks a fundamental question. Is the India of today rooted in Bharat's civilizational soul, or does it continue to operate within inherited frameworks that do not reflect its own ethos? MRV has labored very much to say, to have a comparison between the Government of India Act and Constitution, and has mentioned that even though the Constitutional Assembly had met many times and had hours and hours of discussion, the fact of the matter is that the Constitution in many places is cut, copy, paste work of Government of India. That case, I mentioned it very clearly in the book, which you can all read. Dr. Venkatesh, he was an auditor turned lawyer, as Shika was mentioning. As auditors normally they are good in asking questions, and lawyers are very good in asking cross questions. MRV has done both, because he is both. He takes up the question with remarkable intensity. He examines whether India's constitutional and institutional order, as shaped at independence, truly emerged from India's own historical and philosophical traditions, or whether it remained deeply influenced by colonial, European and Christian frameworks of governance, law and statecraft. Other questions that MRV asks are, what is the true idea of India? Is India merely a political entity born in 1947? Or is it an ancient civilization with an unbroken continuity? Does our constitution adequately reflect the civilizational ethos of Bharat? Or does it continue to bear the imprint of colonial institutions and imported frameworks? These are not questions that lend themselves to easy answers. but they are questions that deserve thoughtful examination. Dr. Venkatesh begins his exploration by revisiting one of the most memorable phrases of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's historic Tryst with Destiny speech, the reference to the soul of nation. From his evocative expression, the author embarks upon a philosophical, constitutional and historical journey, asking what constitutes the soul of Bharat and whether that soul has found adequate expression in the constitutional framework that governs us today. The breadth of the book is remarkable. It traverses history, philosophy, constitutional law, political thought and civilizational studies. The subjects listed in the opening pages themselves indicate the ambitious scope of the work, ranging from nationalism, constitutional morality and federalism to colonial continuities, dharma, civilizational identity and future of Bharat. The book, which is a genetic makeup of the Constitution, ranges widely across themes such as nationalism, federalism, secularism, socialism, minority rights, constitutional morality and the basic structure doctrine. Yet, despite its breadth, its central concern remains clear. The tension between India as a modern construct as an ancient civilizational reality. One of the book's striking contributions is that its insistence that Bharat is merely not an alternative name of India. You will all know how the Constitution begins. India, that is Bharat. Which means he is making it very clear. Please understand, Bharat is not an alternative name for India. Rather, it represents the continuity of memory, culture, sacred geography, social philosophy, and spiritual imagination that has endured through centuries. The author asks whether post-independence India adequately recognized this continuity, or whether in many ways it began afresh using borrowed institutional methods and models. Whether one agrees fully or not with the book or the author, one cannot deny the seriousness of his engagement. This is a book that provokes debate, demands attention, and refuses complacency. It challenges settled assumptions and invites readers to re-examine what they think they know about the making of modern India. Here I would like to digress a little. I do not know how many of you are aware that John Adams and Thomas Jefferson were the second and third presidents of the United States of America. They had fallen out after the 1800 election, and from 1801 they were leading retired lives in their respective villages in the United States of America. But they thought that they would have to patch up with themselves, and they started corresponding within each other. And you can go and check in the Google. There are about 158 letters that have been written between Mr. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson on various aspects that included the Bill of Rights. The founding fathers of both of them were the founding fathers of the Constitution. They had written about Bill of Rights also in their letters. And John Adams has mentioned something about Hindu Shastras and mentioned, is there anything more profound that is available anywhere in the law, in the Constitution, in the governance than the Hindu Shastras? And he has mentioned, though he has not mentioned Bhagavad Gita's name specifically, he had made a reference to Bhagavad Gita in his letter, saying that so that is the question, that is those people who have what is called written Constitution of the United States of America, one of the most so-called advanced democratic countries. They have mentioned about our scriptures. Unfortunately, our Constituent Assembly did not think it right to do that. At a time when questions of identity, civilization, constitutionalism and decolonization are being discussed with renewed energy, this book arrives as an important intervention. It speaks not only to legal scholars and political thinkers, but to every Indian who cares about the relationship between our past, our present, and our future. Books such as this are valuable because they do not merely offer answers. They compel us to ask better questions that even Claude cannot answer, even in this current world. Because in the current world of AI, when answers are collated from the vast data available in the cloud, no one seems to have asked such profound questions. So there are no answers available also. As we gather to engage with Discovery and Bharat, we are also invited to engage with a larger conversation. What does it mean for India to truly become Bharat conscious in its institutions, its laws, and its national self-understanding? With these words, I am happily introducing this significant, stimulating, and magnificent book by Dr. M.R. Venkatesh. Thank you very much.
That was a perfect introduction of the book, sir. Starting from the making of the book, the idea, the glimpse of the contents, what, why, and what it aims, and what we can expect of it. Thank you so very much, sir. That was a bang-on introduction. May we now request MRV, sir, to present a memento to C.A. Srikanth. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. May we also request MRV sir to present a memento to CA P.S. Prabhakar sir for the wonderful introduction of the book. A round of applause, please. Thank you, sir. Moving on to the most awaited event of the day, release of the book. Result of hours of hard work, release of the accumulated thoughts, concerns, deeply processed knowledge, the passionate love for Mother India. Thank you. May we now request Shri N.L. Raja to give the keynote address.
Good evening to all of you. Revered Swamiji, Honorable Justice P.N. Prakash, my good friend Dr. M.R. Venkatesh, Mr. Prabhakar, Mr. Srikanth, I thank M.R. Venkatesh for giving me an opportunity to discover this wonderful book and to present my thoughts to you on this. When M.R. Venkatesh contacted me and requested me to deliver the keynote address, I really didn't know how I was qualified to deliver the keynote address. But when he told me the theme of what he had written on, it intrigued me because for some time I have been giving talks where I have said that many concepts in constitutional law and in fact relating to our legal system, which are thought to emanate from Western minds, were actually Indian, and then Bharat, and then it traveled to various parts of the world and came back to us as Western ideas. I mean, if any of you are interested, you can go into the YouTube, and I have given a very detailed talk there on the origins of the Indian legal system, where I have said that most of the concepts that we look on as being Western ideas, I haven't used the word Christian, as Western ideas, were actually from India. So let me just, I told Venkatesh that, I agreed to, talk at this event with this caveat that I'm going to dwell a little on this. And being a liberal, which hat I'm sure he doesn't want to wear, I'm sure, but again, being a very committed Democrat, he said, by all means, you are free to express whatever views on the book you want. That's the way in a democracy we trigger discussion. I must warn you that, we lawyers have 3 stages when we present anything, especially arguments in court. Before we present an argument and conceive of what we need to say, we are lucid, clear, and are able to deliver whatever we want to say with great cogency in our own minds. But when we stand up and actually argue the case, we stumble, stammer, we are incoherent. There is a third stage after the arguments are over, when we recollect what we should have told the court. Once again, we are very clear, cogent. So, for the good of you all, I hope my presentation today will avoid the first and third stages, and I will be lucid in the second stage. Now, I was talking about how many of these ideas originated from India, traveled to various parts of the world, and came to India. I would just refer to two instances. One is the reference to all the numerals, because Venkatesh is a chartered accountant. There is a preponderance of chartered accountants on the days. So, these numerals, which we call Arabic numerals, actually went from India to Arabia. And from Arabia, the Greeks learnt about these numerals from the Arabs and therefore called it Arabic numerals. You read this book, Golden Road by William Dalrymple, he describes the exact evolution of how everybody says that Indians invented zero. And what do you do after inventing zero? Just stop there, do nothing. So actually we had devised these entire numerals. These traveled to Europe through Arabians were phenomenal mathematicians. They learnt these concepts very quickly, and then it traveled to Europe, and then commonly was referred to as Arabic numerals. These are not Arabic numerals, they originated from India. That's one example. The other example is the very famous, what is called the Fibonacci series, which once again was taken to the West by a brilliant Arab mathematician called Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. We know al-Khwarizmi by two words which are used very commonly in mathematics today. One is algebra and the other is algorithms. Both are named after him. When he writes his text, Fibonacci, he says that he took this from the Hindu codes. That's what he calls them. Because Pingala in 200 BC, Virahata in 700 AD, and Gopala and Hemachandra in 1150 AD have written about this Fibonacci codes. And these came from India, went to Arabia, and even when Al-Khwarizmi writes about them, he refers to them as Hindu codes. But they go to Europe and gets commonly called as Fibonacci, which is an Italian name. So many of these concepts traveled from India, went to various countries, and that's what happened in law, which I will elucidate a little in a short while in this speech. Coming to the Constitution itself, when the Constitution of India first came into existence, there's something that happened, very interesting, that happened in Madras, which was, as it was called then, which I should talk to you about. When the Constitution of India came into effect, a lot of constitutional scholars from all over the world criticized it. You must know that the longevity of constitutions, my learned good friend Mr. Srikanth was mentioning that marriages don't last for 25 years. The tragedy is constitutions last even lesser. The average longevity of constitutions worldwide is between 17 to 19 years, right? Most constitutions die in their infancies. A few staggered to the teenage and die during their teenage. Many of the constitutions which have been extolled as brilliant pieces of constitutional drafting, an instance is the Thailand constitution that came into effect in 2006, died in a bloodless coup in 2015, 9 years after it was enacted. And this is considered to be one of the best written constitutions of the world. Given this scenario, Indian constitution has survived for more than 75 years, and no world scholar at the time when it was conceived felt that a constitution could bring people of such enormous diversity into one common umbrella and give them an instrument of governance. The perfect example was Madras University used to organize a lecture called Sundaram Chetty Lectures for a long time. Sundaram Chetty was a phenomenal judge of the Madras High Court, and in his memory, a series of lectures used to be organized by the Madras University. Madras University invited Sir Ivor Jennings. You must understand that originally Jawaharlal Nehru wanted Ivor Jennings to be part of the Constituent Assembly. Mahatma Gandhi said no. This is a constitution that must be written by Indians, and entrusts that responsibility to Dr. Ambedkar. So Ivor Jennings was supposed to be part of the Constituent Assembly. He was not made part of the Constituent Assembly, but Sir Alladi Krishnasamy here invited him to give a talk at the Madras University, and in that speech he tears the Indian Constitution to shreds. He criticizes this. He says fundamental rights will not work here. Your Article 21 is laughable. And Krishnasamy is sitting in that meeting, taking careful notes, and he wants to write a response to this in the journal brought out by the Madras University. Unfortunately, before he do that, he passes away. Sir Ivor Jennings then travels from Madras to Sri Lanka, where his expertise is used to draft the Sri Lankan constitution. But we all know what happened to the Sri Lankan constitution, best depicted in a cartoon where a person goes to a bookstore and asks for the constitution of Sri Lanka, and the bookseller tells him, sorry, we do not store periodical journals. That's what happened to a constitution created by one of the finest legal minds, Sir Ivor Jennings. So the longevity of the constitution of this country is something that we must be proud of. Now, coming to the topic on which Mr. M.R. Venkatesh has written, I happen to skim through. I am very impressed by the tremendous amount of work he has put in. I am not going to spread myself thin. I am going to take 4 concepts which are commonly believed to have been borrowed from the Bible. And I'm going to show you how these were not biblical concepts, but originated much, much before the Bible was even a thought. Before that, I must pause to tell you one reason why we say that Christian ideas had been borrowed is because a lot of ideas had been borrowed from the American Constitution, as was said earlier. There is a member of parliament, Hanumantayya, who after the constitution was drafted, made this comment, famous comment, that while we expected to hear the music of the veena and sitar, we heard the notes of an English band. And to which the response of Dr. Ambedkar was to say, this is not the note of an English band, this is a grand symphony of voices from all over the world. That was his response. Now, because a lot of these ideas are borrowed from, yes, M.R. Venkatesh is right. He's done an excellent tabulation of how much of Government of India Act was borrowed. But I would still say that the soul of our constitution is in the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy, which were our original thought. I mean, we did borrow from the Bill of Rights. We were inspired by that, but much of it was our own thought. So there is a thought that because we borrowed from the American Constitution, we have borrowed Christian principles. Now, nothing can be further from the truth, because the very first amendment to the American Constitution made it very clear that it was separating the state from religion. So, and then there was a Treaty of Tripoli. Tripoli is modern day Libya, where America entered into an agreement with Tripoli, Libya, so that it could safeguard its ships from what are called Barbary pirates, and said that, declared in that, because Libya was afraid that because these were Muslim nations, America would act with a sense of discrimination against them. To pacify them, in the Treaty of Tripoli, it was declared that America is not a religion-based constitution, is not governed by a religion-based constitution, and there is a clear separation of powers from the state and the religion. So even if it had been borrowed from the American Constitution, it was not a constitution. American Constitution itself is not based on religion. But there are 4 arguments. One is the idea of democracy was borrowed from the Bible. Now, from where does this argument take effect? Because it is said in Deuteronomy 17.14.15, this is what Deuteronomy says: after you have taken possession of the land that Lord your God is going to give you and have settled there, then you will decide you need a king, like all nations around you. Make sure that the man you choose to be king is the one whom the Lord has chosen. He must be one of your people. Do not make a foreigner a king. This is frequently referred to as being the basis of the principle of democracy. But is that so? Let's take a closer look. There is a rule by assembly. These were called Ganasangas. Power rested in a public house or sanctum where matters of state, war, and peace were debated collectively. There were elected heads who went by the title of Raja, and he was chosen by the assembly rather than taking power through royal blood. There was consensus at voting. Decisions were reached through open discussion, and voting chips, which are called salaka, were used where members disagreed. The social structure, while democratic in governance, political rights in many of these republics belonged mainly to the dominant noble or warrior clans, who are called the Kshatriyas. And there is ample evidence to support this, with specific mention of a thriving republic in ancient India, referring to the Sabhas and Samitis. Where are the Sabhas and Samitis referred to? In the Rig Veda. These democratic practices also find place in Atharva Veda. So therefore, democracy as a concept was not new to the country. It is not a Christian concept. It is not a Western concept. It has been in effect in India right from the time of the Rig Veda. The second, rule of law is a biblical concept. From where do you get that? Once again from Deuteronomy. When he becomes king, I'm quoting, he used to have a copy of the book of God's laws and teachings made from the original copy kept by the Levitical priests. He used to keep this book near him and read from it all his life so that he will learn to honor the Lord and to obey faithfully everything that is commanded in it. This will keep him from thinking that he is better than the other Israelites and from disobeying the Lord's commands in any way. This is what is said to be the instance, the foundation of the concept of rule of law. But we don't have to travel beyond Tamil Nadu to prove that there was a rule of law in this country much, much before all these were conceived. Take the story of Samanidi Cholan. There is a saying in English which is attributed to a jurist called Thomas Fuller, which goes that however high you be, the law is above you. This is attributed to Fuller, who lived between 1726, if I am right, to 1750 AD. But nearly 1800 years before that, because Samanidi Cholan was the earlier Cholas. 1700 years before that, Samanidi Cholan had actually put it in practice when he directed that his prince, his son, will meet the same fate as the calf which had been killed on account of his rash driving. Interestingly, in that story, there is also the mention of a bell that used to hang around outside the palace. This is called Araichi Mani. And any citizen could go and ring that bell, summon the king, and seek justice. The equivalent we find in our Indian Constitution in Article 32 and in Article 226. Article 32 and Article 226 are the Araichi Mani of the present day. Therefore, this is nothing new. We have practiced it much before it was even an idea in the heads of the Britishers or the Western mind. The third is rule against arbitrariness. This is what Deuteronomy says: appoint judges and other officials in every town that the Lord your God gives you. These men are to judge the people impartially. They are not to be unjust or show partiality in their judgments. And they are not to accept bribes or gifts, blind the eyes of even a wise and honest men, and cause them to give wrong decision. Always be fair and just, so that you will occupy the land that your Lord, your God, is giving you, so that you will continue to live here. This is once again cited as an example to show that the rule against arbitrariness originated from a Christian thought. Once again wrong, because In the coronation of oath of office of King Bhima in Mahabharata, this is the advice given to the king. Take an oath that by your mind, deeds and words, you shall protect the people, considering it as equivalent to the Creator, that you shall act in accordance with Dandanidhi and not your own caprice. So the rule against arbitrariness, you find mention of it even in the Mahabharata. And in Mahabharata, there is an entire chapter when Bhishma is dying. Krishna tells Dharmaraja that Bhishma is dying, but he is a repository of good governance, the principles on which good governance must be. So please go to him and ask him, and he will tell you how the kingdom must be ruled. So they go to him, and he gives a long exposition of how governance must be, which is based on dharma. The last, and I will end with this, when you harvest, this is once again an extract from the Bible, when you directive principles of state policy. When you harvest your fields, do not cut the grain at the edges of the fields. Do not go back to cut the heads of grains that were left. Do not go through your vineyard to gather the grapes that were missed or to pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for poor people and foreigners. If any of the towns in the land that the Lord your God is giving you, there are Israelites in need, then do not be selfish and refuse to help them. Instead, be generous and lend them as much as they need. These are supposed to be the origins of the directives of state policy. But please look at what our Vedas say. Rig Veda says, gather together, speak together, know each other's mind. May your consultations and assemblies be unified. May your minds and intellects be common. May your evolution be united and your hearts beat in unison. May your minds untied to make you happy. This is what is stated in the Rig Veda. Then it also says, without distinctions of superior and inferior, these are brothers growing up together for prosperity. You have equal rights in articles of food and water, and I bind you to the yoke to live together like the spokes of a wheel and the hub. This once again is Rig Veda Samiti. In Atharva Veda it says, that which sustains is called Dharma. Dharma holds the people together, and hence the conclusion is that which has the ability to hold together is Dharma. So these are all instances to show that these were very much part of our ethos, our culture, our thought, and it would be wrong to think that they are Western or Christian principles. They originated here, went to various parts of the world, and came back. There is one aspect, and I will end with that, which I think when Venkatesh talks about Nehru's speech, where he mentions the soul of India. That is right. The soul of India was missed. How was the soul of India missed? Soul of India was missed because panchayats were not given their prominence when the constitution was dropped. In spite of Mahatma Gandhi's repeated appeals, all this was ignored, and only in 91-92 we woke up to what he said and brought in Panchayat Raj. So panchayats were ignored because you see, one of the things that the British did when they came to India, what did they destroy? They destroyed the decentralized governance that was happening in the country. Much of what people thought that they needed and how they must get it and how must they regulate their own welfare happened at a panchayat level. The British completely, a good management system is a pyramid. You have one person at the top and 100 people at the bottom. That's a perfect pyramid. What the British did is they inverted this pyramid. Instances of which you see even today, 10,000 IAS officers in Delhi, one collector in the district. That is the soul of India which the British missed out when the framers of the constitution missed out when they drafted this wonderful instrument that is holding us all together. Just as Matthew said, that the constitution is a cup into which every generation pours its hopes and aspirations. In that aspect, I am thankful to M.R. Venkatesh for pointing out hopes and aspirations which we should pour into this cup and open it up for debate and discussion. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, sir. That was an informative and enlightening keynote address, starting from the life cycle of arguments, invoking thoughts, organizing them, drawing logic, and presenting. History and evolution of the Arabic, the Indian numerals, algorithms, and algebra claim to be imported. History, contents, strength, and basis of our existing constitution, the why aspects of secularism, the roots of democracy. Law is impartial, referring our own Mananiti Soran. The essence of justice and good governance, the definition of Dharma from Vedas. That was a holistic keynote address and a perfect bouquet of information explaining what the true soul of India means. Thank you so very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. May we now invite Justice P.N. Prakash to deliver the presidential address.
அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். சாமி, உங்களுக்கு தமிழ் தெரியாதுல்ல? சரி. பூஜ்ய ஸ்ரீ மித்ரானந்தா சுவாமி, மை குட் ஃப்ரெண்ட் என்எல் ராஜா, என் கோர்ட்டில் கூட அவர் இப்படி தான் ஆர்கியூ பண்ணுவார். புட்டு வச்சு ஆர்கியூ பண்ணுவார். தி ஹீரோ ஆஃப் திஸ் ஈவினிங் M.R. Venkatesh, Mr. Sridhar and Mr. Prabhakar, who spoke before me. At the outset, we should all congratulate M.R. Venkatesh for this excellent research which he has done and has brought this book. See, we may not agree with his views. Nevertheless, his views are warranted today to counteract the left narrative which was holding us for a very long time. So M.R. Venkatesh has done a great job to counter the narrative of the left, which has been peddling over this, saying that all sorts of things about our country. At the same time, what I find in this book is, I find in page 35, M.R. Venkatesh is a little skeptical about the Indian constitution. He says it is a Christian constitution in a Hindu nation. However, in page 35, he has given rich compliments to the constitution makers and has stated that he is not here to criticize them at all. My dear friends, you all are aware that the Indian constitution was framed at a very, very difficult phase of Indian history. Indian history, cabinet mission came, announced that India will be given independence. Cabinet mission presented a model thing of how a constitution should be. Cabinet mission sent by Clement Attlee very clearly stated that you shall have a constituent assembly, make a constituent assembly, we'll hand over power to you and go. Jinnah agreed to get into the constituent assembly, and thereafter he said direct action day, he asked for partition, and millions and millions of people were coming across and going, and we had 500 and odd Maharajas who were wanting paramountcy. So in that situation, this constitution was prepared, and today, sitting 77 years later, if you're going to sit and say that this constitution is bad, I think it will be uncharitable for the makers of this constitution. So to that extent, M.R. Venkatesh has given full credit to the makers of the constitution. Now, M.R. Venkatesh's attack of this constitution, namely the four principles which N.L. Raja demonstrated, are not Christian in something. They are all in our own Vedas and everywhere. I would go a little ahead and say, please read Arthashastra of Chanakya, which held this country. Maurya dynasty was the greatest dynasty. Chandragupta Maurya, his son, and Ashoka, they held India up to Afghanistan, and they had Arthashastra, which provides for all the things which N.L. Raja said, the four things it is provided there. So it is not something, his main grievance is that Government of India Act has been made into a Constitution of India. Government of India Act is a Christian thought. No, as N.L. Raja pointed out, Government of India Act may be a Christian thing, but the ideas are not Christian. Even before Christ was born, Chandragupta Maurya's empire was there. Chanakya had written Arthashastra, and he held a huge empire under this Arthashastra. Now, the main thrust of M.R. Venkatesh's book is this. MRV says that the soul of India or the Purushartha of India is Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. MRV's argument is the entire Indian ethos is Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. அதாவது அறம், பொருள், இன்பம், வீடு. தமிழை பொறுத்த மட்டும் அறம், பொருள், இன்பம், வீடு. அறத்தின் மூலமாக நம் பொருள் ஈட்ட வேண்டும், அறவழியாக வாழ வேண்டும், அறவழியாக வாழ்ந்து அதன் மூலமாக பொருள் ஈட்ட வேண்டும். அந்த பொருளை வைத்து நமது ஹாப்பினஸ் காமங்களை எல்லாம் அதுக்கப்புறம் மோட்சம் அடைய வேண்டும். அன்டவுட்டட்லி திஸ் இஸ் ஹவு இட் இஸ் அவர் ethos of the country. அதில் யாருக்குமே எந்த சந்தேகம் வேண்டாம். பட் வாட் இஸ் தர்மா? See, the problem is dharma, we all know, is from the root dhr. Sanskritல வந்து தாத்து மஞ்சரின்னு இருக்கும். தாத்து மஞ்சரி is Sanskritல verbs இருக்கும். So dharma is from the root dhr. Dhr means to hold. What is it that holds this universe? That is dharma. So dharma ஒரு concept is a very, very, very amorphous concept. You can't define dharma. You can describe dharma, but not define dharma. Whole of Mahabharatala, Yudhishthira up to Shanti Parva will be asking everyone, is dharma? Dharma milliya. So the dharma is a thing which cannot be defined because it is a imagined reality. அதனால நம்ம ஆளுங்க என்ன பண்ணாங்கன்னா தர்மாவை அழகா இது பண்ணாங்க. They just described dharma. They described dharma as a bull. ஒரு புல்ல ஒரு புல்ல டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணி அந்த புல்லுக்கு தபஹ, சௌச்சம், தயா, சத்தியம், இதி பாதாக கிருதே கிருதாக. அதாவது அந்த புல்லுக்கு இருக்கக்கூடிய 4 கால்கள் என்னவென்றால் தபஹ austerities, சௌச்சம் பியூரிட்டி ஆஃப் மைண்ட், தயா கம்பேஷன், சத்தியம் இஸ் ட்ரூத். இந்த 4 கால்கள் கொண்டது தான் தர்மான்னு டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்றாங்க. ஸோ ஹிதோபதேசா சேஸ் ஆகார நித்ர பய மைத்துனாம் ச சாமானியம் ஏத்தது பசுபிர் நராணாம் தர்மோஹி தேஷாம் அதிகோ விசேஷாக தர்மே நகீனா பசுபி சமானா. என்ன சொல்றதுன்னா மனுஷனுக்கும் மிருகத்துக்கும் என்ன வித்தியாசம்னா மனுஷனும் மிருகனும் சாப்பிடுது, மனுஷனும் மிருகம் தூங்குது, மனுஷனும் மிருகம் புணர்ப்புது, மனுஷனும் இதுக்கு வந்து பயம் இருக்கு. 4மே இட் இஸ் காமன் ஃபார் போத். பட் தர்மா ஒன்லி மேக்ஸ் அஸ் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஃப்ரம் அனிமல்ஸ். ஸோ தர்மா வந்து ஒன்ஸ் அகேன் அதை நம்ம தமிழில் வந்து என்ன சொல்லுவாங்கன்னா சிலப்பதிகாரத்தில் அரசியல் பிழைத்தோருக்கு அறம் கூற்றாகும் உரைசால் பத்தினை உரைத்தோர் ஏற்றுவர் ஊழ்வினை ஊர்ந்து வந்து ஊட்டம் இல்லையா? அரசியல் பிழைத்தோருக்கு அறம் கூற்றாகும். ஸோ அறம் என்பது தர்மா. வள்ளுவருடைய எடுத்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அறம், பொருள், இன்பம் இருக்கு, வீடு மட்டும் காணலை. 3 விஷயம் உங்களுக்கு இருக்கு. ஸோ நம்மளுடைய கண்ட்ரியினுடைய மெயின் திங் இஸ் திஸ் அறம் அண்ட் தர்மா, வெதர் இட் இஸ் சன்ஸ்கிரிட் லிட்ரேச்சர் ஆர் தமிழ் லிட்ரேச்சர். இதில் எந்த டவுட் இருக்க வேணாம். பட் அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சொன்னேன் பார்த்தீங்களா, கிருத்தே கிருத்தகா, கிருத்த யுகத்தில் இந்த தர்மா வந்து 4 காலில் நிற்கும். அடுத்தது வந்து ராமாயணத்து காலம் வருங்க, திரேதா யுகத்தில். ராமா follows every rule under the rule book in order to uphold dharma. பட் ராமானுடைய பர்சனல் லைஃப் இஸ் அ ரூயின், டிசாஸ்டர். அவ்வளோ அவஸ்தப்படுவார் ராமா. ஏன்னா இந்த தர்மத்தை கடைபிடிப்பதற்காக அவர் பட்ட கஷ்டம் கொஞ்சமா நெஞ்சமா இல்லை. ஸோ தர்மா லூசஸ் 1 leg டியூரிங் ராமாயணாஸ் பீரியட். ராமனை வந்து மாரீச்சன் வந்து ராவணருக்கு இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணும்போது ராமோ விக்கிரகவான் தர்மஹ, அதாவது ராமா இஸ் எ விக்கிரகவான். ராமா இஸ் நத்திங் பட் தர்மத்தினுடைய ஒரு விக்கிரகம்னு இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணுவான். யாரு? மாரீச்சன் வந்து ராவணன்ட்ட, ராவணா முட்டாள்தனமா அந்த ஆள்கிட்ட போகாதே, அந்த ஆள் வந்து ராமோ விக்கிரகா தர்மவான், அடி வாங்கிட்டு வருவே அப்படின்னு ஒரு எனிமி வந்து இன்ட்ரடியூஸ் பண்ணுவான். So that takes in Rama followed dharma, but his personal life was totally in shattered. Next comes Dwapar Yuga. Krishna breaks every rule under the sun to uphold dharma. எதை கேட்டாலும் என்ன சொல்வாரு, நீங்கள்லாம் வந்து சத்திரிய குலம், you lost the entire right to rule because you were following the rule book without understanding the spirit of the role. நீங்க என்ன சொன்னீங்க, திரௌபதி வந்து நாங்க சூதாட்டில் ஜெயிச்சிட்டோம். கரெக்ட், சூதாட்டை ஜெயிச்சிட்டீங்க. பட் It is not dharma to strip her in the assembly. It is not dharma. Dharma, she may belong to you. பட் தர்மா எந்த ரூல் புக்கில் எழுத முடியாது, இந்த இவர்களையெல்லாம் நீங்கள் வென்று விட்டால் இவருடைய சேலையெல்லாம் உருவலாம், அப்படி ரூல் புக்கில் இருக்கவே இருக்காது. அதெல்லாம் தர்மத்தின் அடிப்படையில் நம்ம ஃபாலோ பண்ணணும். But the problem with the Kshatriya community was they went about breaking dharma like anything, that Krishna had to come and annihilate the Kshatriya community. அதனால கிருஷ்ணா ஒரு இடத்துல நம்ம சொல்லுவாரு, இவன்ட்ட அர்ஜுனன் சொல்லுவாரு, கிளீனா சொல்லுவாரு, காலோஸ்மி லோக ஷைக்ர பிரவிருத்தோ லோகான் சமஹர்த்து மிக பிரவிருத்தகா. அந்த இது இருக்கு இல்லையா, அதாவது ஐ எம் காலன், ஐ ஹவ் கம் அர்ஜுனா, இவனுக்கெல்லாம் தீர்த்து கட்ட போறேன். ஐ ஹவ் டிசைடட் டு கில் திஸ் ஃபெலோஸ். Either you join me and try to kill them and take the fame. Yasho labasva. You take the fame of killing them. If you are not doing it, I am going to do it. And now he has decided to annihilate the Kshatriya community, because Kshatriya community had fallen out of dharma. That is exactly where, Krishna, at the end of the day, he himself dies and hand over the Guru Ayappan, அந்த ஐடலை வாயு கிட்டையும் குரு கிட்டையும் கொடுத்துட்டு, எந்த ஊர்ல சத்திரியங்கள் இல்லையோ அந்த ஊர்ல கொண்டு போய் வைப்பா இதை. ஏன்னா சத்திரியங்க இருந்தாலே பிரச்சனை அப்படின்னு சொல்லி தான் கேரளாவில் கொண்டு வைக்கிறாங்க. பிகாஸ் கேரளா இஸ் சப்போஸ் டு பி பரசுராம கஷேத்திரம். ஸோ கிருஷ்ணா கம்ப்ளீட்லி அனிலேட்ஸ் தி திங். தென் கலி நம்ம உலகத்துக்கு நம்ம ராமர் மாதிரி வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோமா? கிடையவே கிடையாது. நம்மளாம் எப்படி வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோம்னா சாருவா காஸ்ட் மாதிரி வாழ்ந்துட்டு இருக்கோம். சாருவா காஸ்ட் ஒரு குரூப் இருக்கு. அவங்களுடைய பிரின்சிபல் என்ன தெரியுமா? பீத்வா பீத்வா புனః பீத்வா யாவத்து பத்ததி பூத்தலே உத்தாயச்ச புனః பீத்வா புனர்ஜன்மன வித்யத்தே. குடி குடி நல்லா குடி, கீழே விடுறதோட குடி, எந்திரிச்சுட்டு திருப்பி தண்ணி போடு. புனர்ஜென்மம் கிணர்ஜென்மம் எல்லாம் போகஸ், எதுவுமே கிடையாது. நீ இதெல்லாம் நம்பினா ராமர் மாதிரி கெட்டு போவ, ராமர் மாதிரி ஒழிஞ்சு போவ. வேண்டவே வேண்டாம். நல்லா டாஸ்மாக்கு போ, ஃபுல்லா வாசி, நல்லா தண்ணி போடு, ஒரு பிரச்சனை கிடையாது. பீத்வா பீத்வா புன பீத்வா யாவத்து பத்தத்தி பூத்தலே, கீழே உணர்ந்து மட்டும் தண்ணி போடு. உத்தாயத்தை போன பீத்வா, எந்திரிச்சு தண்ணி போடு. புனர்ஜென்மன வித்யத்தை, புனர்ஜென்மம் எல்லாம் போகஸ். அதோட அவங்க நிறுத்த மாட்டாங்க. அவங்க என்ன தெரியுமா சொல்லுவாங்க? இன்னொரு பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஒரு ஸ்லோகா சொல்லுவாங்க. ஐ ஜஸ்ட் லுக்ட் அட், அதாவது இது நெய் வாங்குங்க, நெய்யை கடன் வாங்கி ரிணம் கிருத்வா கிருத்தம் பீத்வா. அதாவது சாப்பாட்டுக்கு நெய் இல்லாத சாப்பிடாதீங்க. பணம் இல்லைன்னா கூட யார்கிட்ட கடனை வாங்கியாவது நெய் விட்டு சாப்பிட்டு என்ஜாய் பண்ணுங்க. பிகாஸ் யூ மே நாட் லிவ் டுமாரோ. ஸோ வி ஆர் ஆல் சாருவாக்காஸ். தர்மா இன்னைக்கு எப்படி டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணியிருக்காங்கன்னா, பாகவத புராணத்தை எடுத்து பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு என்டையர் சாப்டர் ஆன் தர்மா இருக்கும். ததச்ச அனுதினம் தர்மஹ சத்தியம் க்ஷமா சௌச்சம் தயா காலேன படினா ராஜன் நங்ஷயதி ஆயுஹு ஸ்மிருதிஹி பலம். ராஜா, இந்த இதுல தர்ம சௌச்சம், பியூரிட்டி ஆஃப் மைண்ட், எவ்ரிதிங் வில் பி அட் த லோவஸ்ட் எப். வித்தமேவ கலவு நிர்ணாம் ஜென்மாச்சார குணோதய. வித்தம்னா காசு தான் இங்க பேசும். ஜென்மாச்சார குணோதய அவ்ரித்யா நியாய தௌர்பல்யம். கோர்ட்டுக்கு போனால் ஜட்ஜுக்கு காசு கொடுக்காத தீர்ப்பு கிடைக்காது. நான் சொல்லல, பாகவதப்பன் சொல்லியிருக்கு. இன்னைக்கு நீங்க பாத்தீங்கன்னா ஒரு ஜட்ஜு வீட்டில் கோடி கோடி ரூபாய் பணம் எரிஞ்சு கிடக்குது. அந்த ஜட்ஜ் அரெஸ்ட் கூட பண்ணல, நம்ம ரிட்டையர் பண்ண விட்டுட்டோம். ஸோ அவ்ரித்யா நியாய தௌர்பல்யம். ஸோ கோர்ட்ஸ் வில் நாட் கெட் ஜஸ்டிஸ். ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் கலியுகா. தர்மா இஸ் அட் த லோவஸ்ட் எப். ராஜானக்ஷ பிரஜாபக்ஷாஹா, கிங்ஸ் அண்ட் ஆல் வில் ஸ்டார்ட் ஈட்டிங் அஸ். இன்னைக்கு நம்ம மந்திரிங்கிட்ட போய் ஏதாவது ஒரு ஹெல்ப் கேட்டால் எனக்கு எவ்வளோ பர்சன்டேஜ் கொடுக்குறோம், அவங்க ஹெல்ப் பண்ணேன்னு சொல்லி தான் இருக்காங்களே தவிர திஸ் a real problem. So dharma is, when dharma is at such a low level because of lack of character. இல்லைன்னா யோசிச்சு பாருங்க சார், 400 வருஷமா இந்த ராம் ஜென்ம பூமிக்காக நம்ம சண்டை போட்டோம். 400 years. என்னுடைய 500 years-ஆ 500 years. என்னுடைய யூத் டைம்ல as பிஜேபி செக்ரட்டரி எத்தனை வாட்டி ஜெயிலுக்கு போய் அடி வாங்கி, என் ஒய்ஃப் யூஸ் டு ஸ்டாண்ட் இன் த ஜெயில் வித் சேஞ்ச் ஆஃப் க்ளோத்ஸ் ஃபார் மீ. ஏன்னா டிஎம்கே பீரியட் போட்டு மிதிப்பாங்க எங்களெல்லாம். அன்னைக்கெல்லாம் கட்டி ஒரு பியூட்டிஃபுல் ராமர் கோயில் வந்த பிறகு 1.5 வருஷத்துல இவ்வளோ திருட முடிஞ்சதுன்னா இது என்னது இது? இதுக்காகவா நாங்கள்லாம் ஜெயிலுக்கு போய் அடி வாங்கி உதப்பட்டு எங்கள் கேரியர் எல்லாம் 10 வருஷம் ஐ லாஸ்ட் மை ப்ராக்டிஸ். பிகாஸ் என்ன பண்ணுறது, வாரண்ட்டுக்கு மேலே வாரண்ட்டு, அண்டர் கிரவுண்ட் ஓடுறது, ஆர்எஸ்எஸ் பேண்டு, பிஹெச்பி பேண்டு, பேனை எதிர்த்து கோர்ட்டில் போடணும், உடனே அரெஸ்ட் பண்ணி தூக்கி உள்ளே போடுவாங்க. இதெல்லாம் எதுக்கு? இதுக்கெல்லாம் எதுக்கு? இவங்களாம் திருடுறதுக்கா? இப்போ இவங்க திருடினானுங்களே ஒரு 8 பேர், அவங்கெல்லாம் முஸ்லிம்ஸா கிறிஸ்டியன்ஸா? இல்லையே, எல்லாம் நம்ம ஆளுங்க தான். ஸோ இட் இஸ் சம்வேர் த கேரக்டர் இஸ் த பிக்கஸ்ட் ப்ராப்ளம் இஸ் ஒழுக்கம் விழுப்பம் தரலான் ஒழுக்கம் உயிரினும் ஓம்பப்படும். அந்த ஒழுக்கம் இல்லாத ஒரு ஜனத்துக்கிட்ட நம்ம இந்த தர்மா அர்த்தா காமா மோக்ஷாலன்னு ஒரு கான்ஸ்டியூஷன் கட்டுன்னு சொன்னால் அது எப்படி நிற்குன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல. I remember Swami Mitrananda 30 years back. Swami Mitrananda used to take the children on excursions to North India for character building. My daughter used to go with him. I used to send my daughter with him. He has taken my daughter and he has molded her. You'll be proud to know that she's a quantum scientist today. She's a quantum scientist today. And she is a follower of Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara. So character building was there. But today the problem is character is at the lowest ebb. So this is what is my genuine apprehension about building a constitution on abstract concepts like dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Second, Gen Z generation go wrong. Gen Z generation, let us address them. Vijay announced he is going to start a political party. One leader said, "What is your name?" "You are Joseph Vijay. Why are you hiding your Christian identity?" ன்னு ஒரு தலைவர் சொன்னார். Next minute he said, "Yes, I am Joseph Vijay." ஓட்ட பார்த்தா entire Gen Z has voted for him in every constituency including Kolattur where Stalin had to lose. Now what is the Gen Z wants? Gen Z is not interested in your Christian, Hindu, Muslim, அதுக்கெல்லாம் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டே இல்லை அவங்களுக்கு. ஏன்னா அவங்க என்ன ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாங்கன்னா, எங்களுக்கு we need employment, எங்களுக்கு வேலை வேணும். எங்களுக்கு ஒரு போலீஸ் ஸ்டேஷனில் போய் எங்கள் வாலெட் தொலைஞ்சு போச்சு அப்படின்னு சொன்னால் போலீஸ்காரன் யாருமா திருடினாங்க அப்படின்னு கேட்கக்கூடாது. போலீஸ்காரங்கிட்ட போய் திருட்டு போச்சுன்னா யாருமா திருடினாங்கன்னா அவனுக்கு விசிட்டிங் கார்டை கொடுத்துட்டா திருடுவான். இந்த கேள்வி போலீஸ் ஸ்டேஷனில் எப்பவுமே கேட்பாங்க. "சார், எங்கள் வீட்டை உடைச்சிட்டாங்க சார், ஏன் திறந்து போட்டு போனீங்க?" "ஏய், நான் திறந்து போட்டுட்டு போனாலும் நீ என் வீட்டை காப்பாடுனா தட் இஸ் யோர் டியூட்டி. நான் எதுக்கு திறந்து போட வீட்டை பூட்டி வைக்கிறேன்னா திருடனுக்காக வீட்டை பூட்டி வைக்கல. திறந்து வச்சுட்டு போனால் நாய்கி உள்ள எங்கள் வீட்டுக்குள்ளே அசுத்தம் பண்ணிட்டு போயிடுமேனால தான் நான் வீட்டை பூட்டிட்டு போறேன், திருடனுக்காக பூட்டல. ஸோ ஜென் Z is not prepared to take your answers that yes, we will accept this Hindu divide, Christian divide. அவங்களுக்கு இன்ட்ரெஸ்டே இல்லை. 24 reserved constituencies Vijay has won, which means what? Mainstream political parties இருக்கக்கூடிய தலித் கேண்டிடேட்ஸ் எல்லாம் ரிஜெக்ட் பண்ணிட்டு விஜய் கேண்டிடேட்ஸ்க்கு தலித்ஸ் அண்ட் நான் தலித்ஸ் ஓட்டு போட்டிருக்காங்க. ஸோ ஹியர் ஆல்சோ காஸ்ட் டஸ் நாட் பிளே. ஸோ ஜென் Z is not interested to that extent that RSS சர்சங்க சாலக் ஸ்ரீ மோகன் பகவத் என்ன சொல்றாருன்னா, we must have to hold a dialogue with Gen Z. They are people with integrity and honesty. அவங்கக்கிட்ட நம்ம சும்மா ஆன்டி நேஷனல் கின்டி நேஷனல் சொல்லி அவங்கள இது பண்ண முடியாது. ஸோ வி மஸ்ட் ஹேவ் டு ஹோல்ட் டாக்ஸ் வித் தெம் சொல்கிறாங்க. ஸோ இஃப் யூ ஆர் கோயிங் டு ரீவிசிட் தி கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன், the revisitation is for the constitution should be only for the Gen Z in mind, not our generation. Our generation, we are in the foothold of death. நம்ம எல்லாம் எக்ஸிட்டில் உட்காந்துன்னு இருக்கோம். நம்ம இந்த கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷன் அவங்கள்ட்ட கொடுக்கும்போது how it suits their temperament பார்த்து தான் அவங்கள்ட்ட கொடுக்கணும். So this is what is my view. Then you may be wondering, என்னடா அது இந்த புக்கெல்லாம் படிச்சு ஒரு கான்ட்ரேரியான 2 வக்கீலுங்க பேசிட்டு போறாங்களே நீங்க நினைக்கலாம். As Voltaire said, he is a liberal. Voltaire என்ன தெரியுமா சொன்னாரு? I will not agree with you, but I will fight to death your right to say. I will not agree with you, but I will fight to death your right to say. So definitely MRV, your views are excellent views, there is no doubt about it. The research which you have done is fantastic, but in any event, taking into consideration the Gen Z's, I think we have to think about revisiting the constitution. One small thing பண்ணினாலே நம்ம கான்ஸ்டிடியூஷனில் போறோம்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். என்னன்னா பிரியாம்பிள்ல செக்யூலர்ன்ற வார்த்தையை எடுத்துட்டு ஸ்பிரிச்சுவல்ன்ற ஒரு வார்த்தையை போட்டுட்டாலே பிரச்சனை இல்லை. பிகாஸ் Spirituality transcends religion. There is Islamic spirituality. Sir, let us be very clear. நம்ம உபனிஷத்ஸ் எல்லாம் இவ்வளோ உபனிஷத்ஸ் நமக்கு இருக்குல்ல, இந்த உபனிஷத்ஸ் எல்லாம் எப்படி இங்கிலீஷில் டிரான்ஸ்லேட் ஆச்சு யாருக்கான்னு தெரியுமா? சிம்பிள். அவுரங்கசீபோட ஒரு அண்ணன் ஒருத்தர் தான், தாராஷிகோன்னு ஒருத்தர் தான். அந்த தாராஷிகோ உட்காந்து என்ன பண்ணான்னா 52 உபனிஷத்ஸை இவர் சான்ஸ்கிரிட் ஸ்காலர், ஷாஜகானுடைய மூத்த பையன் தாராஷிகோ. He translates 52 Upanishads into Persian, from Sanskrit to Persian. Persianலேருந்து ஃப்ரெஞ்சுக்கு போச்சு, ஃப்ரெஞ்சுலேருந்து இங்கிலீஷ்க்கு போச்சு. Darashikoh was murdered by Aurangzeb. The pity for India is had Darashikoh succeeded Shah Jahan, things would have been a little different. That's a different issue. So it is very easy to say, all right, put all the Muslims in Bay of Bengal, put all the Christians back to European countries. Adalla, Gen Z is not prepared to accept all that. So we must have to think about a way to make this constitution thing, as he pointed out, as Dr. Ambedkar and the anarchy என்ன சொல்வார்னா, the speech, last speechல இவர் quote பண்ணாரு, however bad a constitution is, if it works with good people, it will work well. However good it is, if bad people are there, it will work. Indians பொறுத்த மட்டும் we are very good people. There is no doubt about it. Just because we have protected this constitution even against Indira Gandhi's attack. 1975-77 இந்த கான்ஸ்டியூஷன் நம்ம ப்ரொடெக்ட் பண்ணி நம்ம இந்த கான்ஸ்டியூஷன் கொண்டு வந்திருக்கிறோம். Of course, there are so many amendments. That is an organic thing. Amendments can be made. There is no doubt about it. For example, the amendment is suggesting make India spiritual in the thing. It's an amendment which can make. But it may not be proper to completely consign the constitution into the Bay of Bengal and try to rebuild a new constitution based on these principles of Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, which are totally imagined realities. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Ayahana Tamil Thodangi, your thoughts were flowing like a river full of mineral water. Rightfully, the need of the book at this influential era, Arthasastra, the ideas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, the ethos of mankind. Dharma can't be defined. It can only be described, and that the only thing differentiates human from animals. Dharma in different yugas, Upanishads getting translated into English, the Kali Yuga, Dharma, the current era, money rules Dharma in Kali Yuga. Character has become a rare resource. The Gen Z, the need of the Gen Z to bring in good life for the next generation. And the essence remains, Indians are good people. A perfect bundle of information, tremendous knowledge emanating from your life experiences, humor and practical reality. Thank you so very much, sir, for the wonderful address. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. May we now request Swami Mitrananda ji for his benediction address.
Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. My salutations to everybody present here and to all, Namaskar. What can be claimed legally right may not be dharmic. Dharma is not easy to understand. In our Upanishads, in the convocation address, when the student leaves the teacher on the last day, the Guru tells the student, you will have doubts on Dharma. When you go back after 12 years of study, when you go back, you will have doubts on Dharma. Because time to time, situation to situation, we need to take a call which is also based on the intention behind the action. So it's extremely subtle to put it out in black and white. So the teacher advises the student, you will have doubts on Dharma, meet wise people in your town, village, discuss with them and decide what is right. So this is something which we should keep in mind. Time to time, what is actually required, understanding the situation and the intent, a decision has to be made. Now coming to this book, I came yesterday from Guwahati and touched the book just now. But Venkatesh has discussed this a couple of times with me, and I found the ideas, the discussion very enriching. I just give one reference. In Ravana's quote, to stand up and speak, you need tremendous guts. If you say something which Ravana cannot accept, he can behead you. You understand? To stand up and say, you need tremendous guts. Vibhishana had that. Vibhishana could stand up and say. When things were not very conducive, Venkatesh used to voice out. And when things are relatively conducive, he voices out. Don't give up that voice. Best wishes.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. May we now request MRB sir to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Pujya Swamiji, Justice P.N. Prakash, Senior Advocate Mr. Raja, my dear friend Prabhakar, victim of MRV's excesses society, Sri Shrikant, who has almost been my childhood friend, who has borne my excesses for 40 years. Good evening to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. By a quirk of fate, this function is fixed, was originally fixed a couple of weeks earlier, but for some reason that Swamiji was traveling, the book did not get printed. We fixed it finally today on a Sunday. As it stands, 9th August 2024, my father passed away, precisely around this time. I'm sure he'll be up in the heavens watching this. Probably happy with my effect, but not agreeing with me entirely with what I have written. Like all good fathers. So I should thank him for being a wonderful father and guiding me lifelong. I'll thank Lord Rama, because when you write a book of this nature, it takes 2 to 3 years to maintain the same tone, retain the enthusiasm yourself, the temperament, the tone, tenacity for 3 years. It's very difficult. It's like a tapas. You get distracted for several reasons. But to sit down and do it day after day is a Herculean task. And one inspiration that has kept me going has been 40 pages of a book titled Ayodhya, which was a foreword written by Shri Jitendra Bajaj, which keeps me always good company in reading and understanding. I thank Bajaj also for writing an epilogue for this book. Being a lawyer, I was very conscious my language could be coarse at times. So I compelled him to write an epilogue to smoothen the rough edges, which he has done with great aplomb, and I must thank him for that. I must thank Mr. Ratan Sarda, who is a popular figure in the national challenge, who comes out and gave me a very important message, as what Swamiji said. Go on writing, go on arguing, go on putting out contrarian views. That puts you all in good stead. Rajiv Malhotra ji, who has written the foreword for this book. There have been 13 endorsers who have endorsed this book on the main pages. One of them, Mr. Krishnamurthy, is here. Thank you, sir. I will thank Keshav for drawing the illustration on the cover Keshav, you have been fabulous. I thank you very much. Because almost 6 to 8 months we struggled to get the book encapsulated in one illustration. Then I would like to thank Mr. T.R. Ramesh. Mr. Ramesh, are you there? Can you just stand up? Because you have been an inspiration for this book several times over. Ramesh is one-man army for fighting the temple cause. And probably I have learned much more about Article 25 and 26 from him than from many constitutional books. I'll thank Mr. P.N. Prakash Justice, Mr. N.L. Raja for having come here and graced the occasion and delivered very stirring speeches. I will also thank, during the course of writing this book, I had an eye problem, Dr. Ramachandran. I went to him, I said, sir, I have a problem. I am seeing one line twice over, one over the left eye and one over the right eye, and I'm finding it very difficult to read. And as a lawyer, I don't read much, I should not read much also, but as a writer, I must read. So he helped me cure it, believe me or not, within a couple of days. I must thank him. I must thank Dr. Shekhar, who is here. Thank you, doctor, for making me stand, because I had undergone a serious surgery with him, and I should thank him because during the course of this book, these were the challenges. Then I remembered from Sundarakandam, when Hanuman goes to Lanka, that every good work will have some sort of speed breaker. There will be some handicaps, there will be some challenges which we'll have to overcome. I must say, these doctors are from heaven, and these two gentlemen have really helped me come back to write this book. The publishers, Joshi and Hema. Joshi went on editing this book so much passionately that sometimes I would say, leave it here, this is the source, leave it, this is where I got it. He said, sir, this source is plagiarized from an earlier source, so we should go to the earlier source and get that source recorded. That was the meticulousness to which Mr. Joshi was doing it. I should again thank both P.S. Prabhakar and Shrikant for having come here. Several of my office colleagues, Mr. Karthik, who has taken care of the entire arrangements for this. I should thank Swamiji for kindly gracing this occasion and guiding me right through. There are two Padma awardees in the audience, MD Srinivas ji and RVS Maniji. RVS Maniji was supposed to leave yesterday. He has stayed back and is taking 11:30 p.m. flight. Thank you. Priya, can you come up? No function would be wonderful without the audience participation. And all of you have been participating in my journey. Many of you would have spoken a sentence here or a sentence there. Probably this book owes its origin to one of the conversations I had with Professor Varadarajan. And he was one of those Zen-like character who would speak very less and package his ideas Zen-like, but with most, outmost, it will be pregnant with billion possibilities. I should also thank the audience who has come here. And before I close, I would like to thank Subhashini, who has been the master of ceremonies in all the functions. And since I have to return home, I will also have to thank my wife. She has been a source of strength, and she has virtually ensured that whatever time I get out of, despite my professional engagement and other things, she doesn't disturb me on the time that I could spare to write this type of books. And she always wants me, when I complete one, not to venture on one more. I promise, sir, I will not venture on one more, but I've already started one more. So with this, let us thank everybody, and I thank everybody for having joined me here. Let us have a chorus of National Anthem.
कोटि कोटि भुजैर धृत कर करवाले, अवला के तुम्हारे तो बोले बहुबल धरिणी वंदे मातरम। तुम्ही वेद्या तुम्ही धर्म तुम्ही वेदी वाणी विद्या दायिनी नमामि कमलाम् अतुलाम् सुजलाम् मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्। श्यामलाम् सरलाम् भरणीम् मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् मातरम्।
Thank you. Please. May we also request thank you. May we request Shrikant sir to present a shawl to Justice P.N. Prakash sir. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please. Thank you, sir. May we now request Mr. Gautam to present a shawl to Sri N.L. Raja, sir. I know we are here for a serious topic, but still clapping is good. Thank you.
It's a privilege to welcome all of you to this unique book launch. And we are particularly honored today to have the presence of Swami Mitranandji, mentor of Chinmaya Mission, along with Honorable Justice P.N. Prakash, retired Judge of the Madras High Court, and Sri N.L. Raja, Senior